Okay, Shalom Aleichem, warm welcome to one and all on this 28th, closing out the month of ER, 28th of ER, 5777, famous, infamous Yom Yerushalayim, celebration of Jerusalem 50 years ago, which was kind of semi-liberated by people of Israel. Okay, we are on part 3 here. Part 3 here of the counting of the Omer like you've never heard before. Just a little bit of a very quick recap of the first 2 classes. We spoke about 3 events from the time of the written law and the oral law, that 24,000 people were lost. The first event took place in the city of Shechem by Shimon and Levi and other brothers of Shimon and Levi, the children of Jacob, after Dinah was raped in the city. Later on, 24,000 people in the city of Shechem, or in the outlining areas, were killed in the battle that followed. That was the first event with we see 24,000. Second event was in the last year of the desert, 40th year of the desert, after exiting Egypt. We see that 24,000 people from the tribe of Shimon. Very interesting. Shimon, of course, we remember Shimon was the major player in the time of the raping of his sister Shem. So once again, we see Shimon has a tremendous part here, that according to our sages, 24,000 people that were killed off by God because of the fact that the Jews mixed and mingled and had relations with non-Jewish women, specifically the women of Moab. 24,000 Jews were eliminated. Last but not least, in the time of the Talmud, in the time of the destruction of the Second Temple, Rabbi Akiva had once again the number 24,000 students. They were also killed out on a 32-day period of time, somewhere between Passover and the holiday of Shavuot. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, we saw that we know that we were taught always in school, we were taught the famous Talmud passage in the tractate of Yevamot 62, side B. We are told that the students of Rabbi Akiva did not have respect for one another. And that's what pretty much we know about this time period. Last week we saw tremendous sources. We see a totally different light. We see a different light because of our obvious question. We can understand that the first two events, one is the event of Shimon and Levi in the city of Shechem when Dinah was abused, and the second event of 24,000 Jews in the tribe of Shimon that were killed off because of the fact that there was illegal sexual activity that was happening between Jews and non-Jews. We can understand the connection between the two first events. They have to do with illicit relationships. But what in the world does the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva who did not have respect, what does that have to do with some kind of transgression of immodesty? That we don't see the connection. So last week, with Hashem's help, we saw tremendous insights on this specific issue of transgressions of immodest behavior. Number 1, we saw that one of the leading students, or the leading student of Rabbi Akiva, his eyes caught an eye of a prostitute, in a place where it was filled with prostitutes. I imagine that he just didn't happen to, by mistake, end up on that street, but he went looking for this specific issue. And we saw this in Tana Eliyahu, a tremendous Elijah the prophet is telling us that the leading student of Rabbi Akiva, which means a lot. Why? Because we know that if a person's head is in pain, it's not just your head that's in pain, your entire body is affected by the fact that a person's head is ill. So according to the situation, according to a person's mental health situation, you could be sure that the rest of a person's body, the arms, the legs, etc., are affected, because the most important part of a person, of course, is the head. So if the Torah is coming around and telling us, Elijah the prophet is coming and telling us that the leading student of Rabbi Akiva, then you understand that if there's a problem with this immodest behavior by the leading student of Rabbi Akiva, there were problems on this level of immodest behavior that was taking place as you go down the line of the 24,000 students. If there's an illness at the top, you look many times at a corporation and you see if there's a problem by the CEO. If you really look closely, or sometimes you don't even have to look closely, you don't need glasses, it's obvious that you're going to find many, many problems, okay, as you go down and to the more simple workers of the company, because the head of the corporation, the CEO, he's corrupt, so that's going to have an influence on the rest of the corporation as you go down to the simple people. Okay, so we saw that by miracle, after 3 attempts, this prize student is going after a prostitute to have relations with a prostitute, and she tries to talk him out of it. Once, it doesn't work. She tries one more time. Take 2, as they say in Hollywood, and it doesn't work again. Take 3, and this time, thank God, it worked. This time she was able to stop him from his intentions, and a heavenly voice came out from the sky and said both these people, both this woman and also the student, are invited. They do have a share in the world to come, because they were so close to committing this transgression, and they were able to pull themselves out of it. It was such a tremendous sacrifice on both their parts that they acquired a certain part in the world to come for this tremendous act. So we see something that we've never been taught in school. This teaching of Tana Eliyahu, we've never heard about it. We always hear about the students did not have respect. Okay, number 2, we see that's a student, that's the top student of Rabbi Akiva. How about Rabbi Akiva himself? Are there any details of Rabbi Akiva with this test of immodesty transgressions? We said last week that if you look in the thousands of pages of the Talmud, of the oral law, how many cases can we find where the Talmud talks about various tremendous sages and rabbis that had some kind of conflict with this issue? How many times do we see it? It's true that we do see it, but it's like 1 in a million. It's very, very rare. Now hold on. Even though it's rare, believe it or not, there are 3 cases or 4 cases that involved none other than, drum roll, Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva. You heard it correctly. There are 3 or 4 events that Rabbi Akiva had a run-in with some event that he was tested to see whether he would stand when it came to a modest transgression. Number 1, the first event happened with the wife of Tronus Rufus, who was one of the leading leaders in the time of the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans. He was a Roman. He was below the king Hadrian. He was one of the Hadrian's top men. And he had a wife who eventually became the wife of Rabbi Akiva, the Talmud tells us. But she tried to seduce him into doing an immodest transgression, sexual behavior. And she lifted up her skirt and was not successful. Rabbi Akiva spit towards her. The Avoti Rabbi Natan in the 16th chapter tells us about 2 more events that happened with Rabbi Akiva, how women tried to seduce Rabbi Akiva, but to no success. The last event appears in the last page, or the second to last page, in the Tractate of Kiddushin, 81st page, second side, a tremendous case. It tells us that the Talmud tells us that Rabbi Akiva was walking outside one day and he looks towards a palm tree and he sees somewhere on the palm tree, he sees this woman somewhere in the middle of the palm tree. Rabbi Akiva sees this woman and he decides that he's going to go after her to have relations with this woman. The great Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi Akiva who was higher, the Rabbi Akiva who was greater than Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. Okay, so what happens? We see that it wasn't really a woman. It was somebody that looked like a woman. Now, don't get confused, like today, like if you know what's flying in the world, so you could say like maybe it was Bruce Jenner, or Jennifer Jenner, I don't know exactly what her name is. But we're not talking about this kind of case. Like, don't get messed up, this is not Hollywood here, or Sunset Boulevard. But we're talking about that Satan, the evil inclination, dressed himself up as a woman, but it wasn't a real woman. Okay, and it was just Satan that was dressed up to test Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva is flying up this tree. Rabbi Akiva is flying up the tree. Now you can imagine, not in our days, imagine like a rabbi getting up with a tree. Usually they're not in the greatest shape, but I guess in those days, 2,000 years ago almost, the rabbis were in tremendous shape. So you try going up a palm tree. Rabbi Akiva was successful in climbing up this palm tree. Anyways, he's coming close to this woman who's not really a woman. It's just the Satan trying to test Rabbi Akiva to see if he's going to fall for it. And then, as he's about to lunge at her, Rabbi Akiva, Satan says the following: Rabbi Akiva, I've been told by heavens to, to get off your back. Which means that the Satan had received permission to test Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was very close to falling on this test of sexuality. And then, at the last second, Satan comes and says, listen, I've been given an order from above not to test, not to incite you anymore, Rabbi Akiva. And once the incitement of the evil inclination was over, Rabbi Akiva climbed down the tree, and that was the end of the story. So Rabbi Akiva was very close to transgressing an issue of sexual behavior. So we see a totally new angle to Rabbi Akiva and the students of Rabbi Akiva. Now we have to understand, it is true that, thank God, Rabbi Akiva was successful in standing up. It is true that his top student also succeeded in standing up and not falling. But there is a foundation in Judaism that if a person is 100% clean on a certain issue, he will no longer be tested on this note. Which means, let's say a person is 100% clean as far as stealing. A person is 100% clean. He doesn't use people's items. He doesn't take things. He doesn't ask for things that you might say, okay, I'll give it to you, but you really don't. That's also a branch of stealing. You come over to a person's house and say, well, I'd like to borrow that MP3. Now, you say okay, but you really didn't want to give it to them. So that's also an aspect of stealing. So if a person is 100% clean on this issue of respecting other people's possessions, Hashem will no longer test them on this issue because they passed the test, they're clean. We go on to the next test. Okay, but it's not going to be in this issue. That's a principle in Judaism. So if the students of Rabbi Akiva, and if Rabbi Akiva himself, in all the Talmud, how many incidents are there of rabbis that had some kind of run-in with women, with sexuality questions? 3 or 4 incidents by Rabbi Akiva. So we see there is an issue with Rabbi Akiva and also his students on this issue. So therefore, this is a real amazing light. Because once again, we have 3 events that involve 24,000 people messing up and dying. And 2 of them are connected to sexuality problems. Dinah, Shechem, and Zimri, and Cosbi, and the tribe of Shimon, and the women of Moab. But we never saw a connection between the 24,000 of Rabbi Akiva till today, or actually last week's class. Now all of a sudden we see a connection between the 3 events. There's a connection here of a question of immodest sexual behavior that's happening here in these 3 cases. Now, the next point that we saw last week, after seeing Rabbi Akiva and his top student that had an issue with this subject, we saw an amazing idea. We saw an amazing idea that the Talmud considers somebody that is haughty or somebody that does not respect other people, looks down at other people, doesn't consider others as good as they are. That person is considered to be a person that has had illegal relations with women that are forbidden for him. Once again, listen closely. The Talmud tells us in the Tractate of Sotah, 4th page, side B, tells us that if a person looks down, does not have respect for others, this is a sign that the person has also issues as far as immodest sexual behavior. This is an amazing thing. Because the Talmud tells us that the students of Rabbi Akiva did not respect or look down or took others lightly, or spoke lashon hara, spoke evil tongue, gossip about other students. This is what we saw last week, that of many, many commentators that expand on what does the Talmud means when it says that the students did not have respect. It goes much, much, much further than just not respecting enough. A person can have respect, but it might just be lacking a little bit. We're not talking about that. Because according to the majority of commentators, it wasn't just a lack of respect. It was looking down. It was looking at others differently than I look at myself. That's a totally different ballgame. And the Talmud tells us that if you lack in this area, you lack in the area of illegal, of some types and forms of sexual transgressions. It's as if you've done sexual transgressions if you have this characteristic trait of looking down at others and looking at yourself as greater than they. So we see another connection between the students of Rabbi Akiva not having respect and problems of immodest sins. We also explained, according to this, a tremendous question mark that was always in our minds. The Talmud tells us that the Jewish people suspected Moses, that Moses had illegal relations with their wives. What? Say what? Moses? Like the most holy person ever? People suspected Moses, like, are you nuts? Can you imagine suspecting today Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky of having illegal relations with somebody's wife? Like, are you nuts? Rabbi Ovadia Yosef? You know, like, are you crazy? Rav Mazuz, or all the greats? Or in Elon Moreh, Rabbi Levanon? I mean, you're nuts. There's no way. No way, right? So how could they have suspected Moses? And we saw a tremendous insight by the commentator, Ein Eliyahu. He says, he brings down this Talmud that says, if a person looks down at others, he's then a suspect for having illegal sexual relations. Now, it says in the portion of the week of Korach, that Korach comes up to Moses and says to Moses, why are you haughty? Why are you looking down at the Jewish people? Wow. So the Ein Eliyahu in his commentary, he says an amazing Torah. He says because of the fact that Korach and the Jewish people looked at Moses as being one up on them, and that's why Moses gave a prime assignment to his brother. Why didn't he allow others to be? And if the Jewish people are a holy people, why is he just picking members of his family to be the leaders of the Jewish people? If all Jews are holy, let all Jews be leaders. We don't need leaders at all. So therefore, because of the fact that the Jewish people suspected Moses of being haughty, they also suspected him of illegal relations with their wives. It goes hand in hand. Amazing. Okay. So we see a tremendous connection between a lack of respect, okay, verbally or in one's mind, looking down at others. It's not always verbally. Many times verbally you can't tell, but in a person's mind, they're looking down at others. And if you notice in our prayers, when we finish the Amidah, the 19 blessing benediction, what do we say? We say, V'nafshi ke'afar lekol tiyeh. May I see myself as dust compared to others. Which means a person should always see something better that the other person has. Now, it doesn't mean that everyone is better than me, but it does mean, and we have to look and see that every soul, every person has some point, some characteristic trait, some deed that is much greater than myself. And try to concentrate when you deal with that person, try to concentrate not on the faults, not on the things that need to be corrected. Try to concentrate on that point that the other person standing next to you is greater than you. And if you look at them in that light, okay, then this is a tremendous tikkun, a fixing. This tremendous tikkun. This way we do not become haughty, because we see always the greatness of others. And every single person has a certain point that they're definitely greater than us. Okay. So, folks, not only that, the last point that we saw last week is a tremendous spiritual connection. If you look at the human body, we see that in the book called Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, which was written by none other than Abraham, Avram Avinu, it says there a tremendous principle, foundation in Judaism, that if you look at the human body, you'll see that a person's mouth is directly connected to a person's reproducing organs, exactly straight line. Is that haphazard? Is that by chance? Is there no connection? Of course not. If that's the way it is, and that's the way the body is made, okay, which a person is directly, therefore, Abraham tells us that the covenant that God made with a person's mouth is connected to the covenant of the circumcision. They're both connected. If there's a problem, okay, if there's a problem with a person's reproduction organs, there's going to be a problem with speech. If there's a problem with speech, a person using his speech not for good things, for bad things, a person's using foul language, a person is getting down on a person, embarrassing people in public, whatever transgression is going on, if there's going to be a lack in a person's mouth, there's spiritually connected is a person's reproduction organs. They go hand in hand. Okay? They go hand in hand. If one limb of a person is in pain, it's not just that one limb. It's other parts of the body that are also, like, remember that song, the jawbone's connected to the leg bone, right? Something like that. Okay, so this is what we saw all last week, and here we're going to go for the TKO. We're going to really finish it off here. Now, we have here next to me, and now we'll focus in on it. We have a tremendous reincarnation chart, which will include, which will tie in all three events, that have 24,000 people that passed away, which of course is the event in Shechem, the event in the last year in the desert with the tribe of Shimon and the daughters of Moab, and of course, last but not least, Rabbi Akiva and his 24,000 students that passed away this time of year. Okay, so folks, let's take it to the top. We'll see an amazing spiritual connection between these three events. Okay, it's not haphazard that they both involve 24,000. So, we have number 1, Shechem. Number 2, we have Zimri. And number 3, Rabbi Akiva. In all three cases, 24,000 people are eliminated. Okay, so we have Adam and Eve, and Adam sins. One aspect of Adam's sin, there were a few aspects, but the Talmud in the tractate of Sanhedrin, it tells us there that one aspect of Adam's sin was a sexual transgression. I'm not going to get into it right now. Trust me, one of the transgressions that Adam possessed was a transgression when it comes to the spiritual, the sexual realm. So that was one of his downfalls. Adam right now we're going according to one of the great Kabbalistic personalities. His name was Rabbi Menachem Azaria of Pano, the Rama Mipano, famous. His book is entitled Asara Mamarot. Okay, it exists today. He was tremendous, if I'm not mistaken, he lived in Italy. He was tremendous Kabbalistic giant until this very day. His words are still continue within the Jewish people. So Adam is reincarnated because of the fact that one of his lackings was when in the sexual realm. He comes back as Mr. Shem. Okay, Adam comes back as a reincarnation of Shem. Okay, now, Shem, who is a reincarnation of Adam, so on one hand, he has tremendous spiritual powers because he's a reincarnation of the greatest spiritual person that ever exists, Adam and Eve. On the other hand, he's been contaminated because of the fact that Adam contaminated himself with a sexual transgression. So there's like a mixture here. Now, Shem, he's attracted to the daughter of Jacob, Dinah. Why is that? The Or HaChaim HaKadosh tells us a tremendous principle, a tremendous foundation in Judaism. He tells us that if you ever see somebody that is a lowlife, somebody that is impure, that is going after holy people, then you know that there's some kind of spiritual connection. It might be 0.000 point something percent, but there is a tremendous connection because the general thumb of rule is that impurity does not go at all with purity. Think about it. If you have to choose a friend, you usually want to choose a friend that's like you, right? If you're like a guy that likes to, drink and smoke and, do drugs, you're not going to hang out with Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, because you want to hang out with people like you. When I was in high school, I hung out with all the bad guys and all the bad girls. We were like a group, and we didn't hang out with those goody two-shoes, those good people. We didn't hang out with them. Okay. So remember this principle of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, that if Shem, who's impure, if he's going after a very, very special spiritual woman, Dinah, there's only because of the fact that he has some spiritual connection with her. How does he have a spiritual connection if he's such a lowlife? He is a lowlife, but we said that he has a spark of reincarnation of Adam, who is a tremendous spiritual person. So Adam, who's a tremendous spiritual person, gives a certain spiritual light to Shem, but on the other hand, Adam also was found lacking when it came to sexual behavior. So therefore, he has relations with Dinah. And because of the fact that this relation was not for the sake of heaven, it wasn't like Shem is saying, you know what, I feel like I have to connect myself with a woman on a holy bond of marriage or a connection. That would have been he would have finished the tikkun, the repair of Adam, but he didn't do that. He had a lot of lust involved in his. There was a certain percent of sake of heaven that he wanted to connect with a spiritual being like Dinah, but most of it was not for the sake of heaven. It was just because there was a beautiful woman here and he wanted to have relations. So because of the fact that it wasn't for the sake of heaven, so therefore we have here 24,000 people in Shem city die because of the fact that it was not for the sake of heaven, because of the fact that just like Adam, when he messed up, he brought death to the world. Shechem, when he messes up with Dinah, with the wrong intentions, so just like Adam brought death to the world, so Shechem brings death to 24,000 members of his community in the city of Shechem. Okay, now the Ramah from Pano, he continues to go. After this, Shimon, who's the brother of Dinah, he decides that he's going to marry. At this time, this is before the Torah was given, so it was not illegal to marry brothers and sisters. So Shimon felt bad for the embarrassment, degradation of his sister Dinah, and he marries her after she's desecrated and degraded in the city of Shechem by Shechem. They get married. Now this Shimon, okay, who is Shimon? Okay, who is Shimon? So Shimon, we are told, there's two opinions who he was. One opinion is that Rabbi Akiva is reincarnated into Shimon. Okay, Rabbi Akiva is reincarnated into the body of Shimon. So when you're looking at Shimon, there's a part of him which has the soul of Rabbi Akiva. So we see all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, Rabbi Akiva is involved with the action that took place in the city of Shechem, because this is right after Shechem, after he desecrates Dinah. So Shimon decides to marry. So therefore, at this point, Rabbi Akiva is reincarnated into Shimon. So you have Shimon with Rabbi Akiva over here, and they get married, and you have Zimri. Okay, you have the child of theirs is Zimri. So actually, Rabbi Akiva is not only connected to Shimon, who's connected to the city of Shechem. Now we have Rabbi Akiva, who's also connected to Zimri, who is a member of the tribe of Shimon, and he was the one that led the charge of having illegal relations with the women of Moab. So we have the leader of the tribe of Shimon, right? We have the leader of the tribe of Shimon, and really the father of this Zimri is really Rabbi Akiva. So we have Zimri, and he gets together with Cosbi, the daughter of Tzur, who's of course not Jewish, and he has relations with Cosbi. Now once again, you have to understand that these people are great people. So the fact of the matter is, if you understand that, why in the world would Zimri, who's the leader, it says in the Talmud, on the 82nd page in the tractate of Sanhedrin, it says that Zimri is one of 5 names of the children of the child of Shimon. There are 5 names. One of them is Zimri, but there's 4 others. One of them is Shaul. One of them is Ben Aknanit. One of them is Shelumiel ben Suri Shaddai. What? Zimri. Who's Zimri? Zimri is really the same person as Shlumiel ben Suri Shaddai, who happens to be the leader of the tribe of Shimon. So he's a pretty holy guy. Why is he having relations with this non-Jewish woman? Same principle, remember, going back, we said if Shechem has relations with Dinah, there's some point here. There's some point that there is a spiritual, holy connection. It just happened to be that Shechem had the wrong intentions. Okay? But there is, if he did not have the improper intentions, he could have been tremendous fixing to the situation. So the same thing, Zimri, who is the leader of the tribe of Shimon, has somewhat of a spiritual connection with this non-Jewish woman, Kozbi Batsur. There's a spiritual connection, and therefore he believes that it's okay to get together with her because he thinks he's doing it out of good intentions, spiritual intentions. But the Torah tells us that along with a good intention, most of it was a sexual violation. It did not have anything to do with good intentions. So therefore, Zimri, who is Shlumiel ben Surishadai, who is the leader of the tribe of Shimon, he messes up here when he has relations with Kozbi, the daughter of Tzur from Moab, the people of Moab. So because of this, 24,000 people are killed. 24,000 people of the tribe of Shimon are killed out. Okay? Why? Because they did not have proper pure intentions. So we have, once again, listen to what's happening. We have Adam who sins, and then he's reincarnated into Shechem. Shechem sins, and because he's like the leader, so therefore he's connected with 24,000 other souls, and therefore they die. 24,000. These 24,000, in the time of Shechem, who raped Dinah, they are reincarnated to 24,000 members of the tribe of Shimon, who of course Shimon marries the daughter of his sister Dinah, who was raped by Shechem. And therefore these are 24,000 reincarnation people that try to get it correct this time, but once again they mess up and their intentions are not pure either, so they pass away. Okay, now the Rav Menachem of Pano, he tells us that Zimri, okay, the son of Shimon, who Shimon is is also reincarnation of Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva has a child. His name is Zimri. Zimri himself is a reincarnation of Shechem. So we have Rabbi Akiva here, brings to the world a son named Zimri. Zimri himself is a reincarnation of Shechem. So we have Rabbi Akiva heavily tied into what happened in the city of Shechem. He's connected to Shimon, who killed these people in Shechem. He's connected to Shechem himself. Okay, he's connected to Shechem himself because his son Zimri is a reincarnation of Shechem. Just like Shechem didn't get it right, Zimri didn't get it right, 24,000 people are killed. Okay, Zimri, we said, he takes this woman, a non-Jew, named Kozbi. Kozbi is a reincarnation of Dinah. Kozbi is a reincarnation of Dinah. So once again, there's some kind of pollution that's happening over here, that there was a chance, if people had 100% pure intentions, there could have been a tremendous fixing, a rectification here, but there was not. Because it wasn't for the sake of heaven, Zimri was not for the sake of heaven, Kozbi was not for the sake of heaven. They were not successful in fixing the reincarnation that was needed for Dinah. Dinah was polluted by Shechem, and Kozbi was polluted by Zimri. So, anyways, that doesn't work out either. Now, going on further here, and the second reincarnation, so we have Dinah, she's reincarnated into Kozbi. That also messes up. Kozbi is reincarnated to Isabel. Isabel was the wife of the king of Israel. His name was Achav, and she was a really, really treacherous woman. She is a reincarnation of Kozbi. So she is reincarnation number 2. Kozbi was number 1. She's reincarnated to Isabel. That's why, if you notice, an amazing thing, Isabel is going after and trying to kill who? Elijah the prophet. Why is that? Because of the fact that what is Elijah the prophet? Who is Elijah the prophet? Elijah the prophet is a reincarnation of Pinchas. What did Pinchas do? Pinchas killed Zimri, who had relations with Cosbi. So Cosbi is a reincarnation. Cosbi is a reincarnation into Isabel. And Isabel remembers what happened in a previous life where she was Cosbi, and the fact that she was killed by Pinchas. Pinchas is Elijah the prophet. So therefore she's going after to try to kill Elijah the prophet. That's why the prophets had to hide in the caves in her time. Eventually, she's reincarnated one more time to the wife of the evil Roman leader named Turnus Rufus. And eventually, Rabbi Akiva marries her. So this is a tremendous thing. I'm surprised that everyone's still sitting down. We have the fact that Dinah is reincarnated. Okay, Dinah, who was taken by Shimon to marry. Shimon was reincarnated into Rabbi Akiva. So it's if Rabbi Akiva has a connection with Dinah, they have Zimri. Zimri then has relations with Cosbi. Cosbi is a reincarnation of Dinah. Cosbi messes up over here, as does Zimri. And Rabbi Akiva is connected to all of this. And they have the second reincarnation is Isabel. Isabel, she goes after Elijah, who's connected to Pinchas. Why? Because she's a reincarnation of Cosbi, who was killed by Pinchas, rightfully so. So she's going after him. So she messes up also. Instead of respecting him and understanding that what he did was correct because of people's non-kosher intentions, she tries to go after him. And therefore, she eventually is reincarnated into the wife of Turnus Rufus, who Rabbi Akiva, who's connected to Dinah, who's reincarnated, they marry each other. And they marry each other. And then, very interesting, there are spiritually 24,000 students who pass away by Rabbi Akiva. So once again, we see that even though in the time of Shem, they tried to rectify the sin of sexual immoral behavior that took place by Adam, they were not successful. 24,000 people die. They come back one more time in the time of Shimon. They try to come back. In the time of Zimri, they come back. They do not succeed in rectifying the situation. They come back, take 3 in the time of Rabbi Akiva, and once again they mess up themselves, and they are also destroyed. Okay. Okay, so far, these are the words of Rav Menachem Azaria from Pano. Folks, hold on here. Now we're going to bring in the Arizal. The Arizal says an amazing Torah. The Arizal brings down in his work, Sefer Alikutim, on the portion of the week of Vayeshev, on page 111. He says the following thing: if Rabbi Akiva could have been the Messiah. Why? Because if you look at the name Akiva, Akiva is a mixture of the name Jacob. Remember, before Jacob was about to pass away, he wanted to reveal to the Jewish people, when the Messiah is going to come. Why is that possible? Because Jacob was a person that almost 99%, he was successful in rectifying and fixing the sin of Adam. Jacob looked exactly like Adam, because spiritually he was the spark of Adam, and he almost was able to rectify. He was almost the Messiah. That's why he was going to give over this information, Jacob. If you look at the name Akiva and Jacob, it's the same exact letters except for the Aleph. What do we do with that Aleph? Aleph belongs to Adam. Adam is spelled Aleph in Hebrew. So we have Jacob, okay, who rectified almost 100% Adam, and Adam was supposed to be the Messiah, and he messed up, and it went over to Jacob. Jacob was almost the Messiah, and he gives it over to Rabbi Akiva, the same letters as Jacob. And listen to what he says. The Arizal says the following. If you look, Rabbi Akiva, it was a time that was made to bring the Messiah. It wasn't by mistake that Rabbi Akiva messed up and he believed that Bar Kokhba was the Messiah. It wasn't a mistake. Not only Rabbi Akiva believed that, it was also the majority of the sages believed that he was the Messiah. So what was his real name, Bar Kokhba? It wasn't Bar Kokhba. His real name was, amazingly, Shimon ben Koziva. Shimon ben Koziva. So remember our chart. We have Shimon, who was in the city of Shechem. And then Shimon is reincarnated to who? To Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva points to, not only did Rabbi Akiva have the possibility of being the Messiah, but he points to Shimon as the Messiah. Shimon ben Koziva. So the name Koziva rings a bell. Why? The Arizal says that if you look by when God wanted to bring the Messiah via Judah and Tamar, right? It says that when Tamar gave birth to her third child, it says that she gave birth bichziv. Look at the words, Kaziv, Kaf, Zayin, Yud, Bet. It's the same exact letters as Bar Kokhba, Ben Koziva, Koziva, Kaziv. It's the same exact words, which means that the process of bringing the Mashiach, it began with Jacob. Or it actually began with Adam. Adam messed up. It ran down to Jacob. Jacob was almost successful, but no cigar. Okay, no cigar there. And then Jacob passes, according to the Arizal, he passes the Messiah to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva passes it to Shimon. That name again comes, okay, to bring the Messiah, and he's the son of Koziva. The word Koziva appears by Judah, the son of Jacob, and the Messiah comes to the world via that match of Judah and Tamar. From there comes the Messiah. From there eventually comes the Messiah. So Yehuda, when we mention Yehuda, he's having relations with a woman named Tamar, okay? And during the birth is called Kaziv, the same letters as Bar Kokhba, Shimon ben Koziva. And this is not in the Arizal, but folks, we could add an unbelievable another point here and close the whole circle here. We said Koziva, the same letters as Kaziv, Judah bringing the Messiah. Bar Kokhba could have been the Messiah if he didn't mess up. Number 3, who did Zimri have relations with? Kozbi, the daughter of Tzur. How do you spell Kozbi? The same letters as Koziva, as Bar Kokhba, the same letters in the time of Judah. And when he had relations and he had a son, and it was a place called Kaziv, the same 3 events which connect us to the Messiah. One of them was Zimri, who's a continuation. We said he's a reincarnation of Shem, who's a reincarnation of Adam. So folks, we have an unbelievable spiritual connection here between Adam with Shem, Zimri, Rabbi Akiva. It goes down the whole line. Tremendous, tremendous. Our last point, and really put on a seatbelt for this. Our last point is the real grand slam. It's the real clincher to understand the connection between three events that caused 24,000 people to pass away. This is brought down in the book Chesed LaAvraham. Chesed LaAvraham is the father, Rav Avram Azulai, who's the father of the famous Chida, Chaim Yosef, David Azulai, the Chida. He writes the following. After he tells us to understand that Rabbi Akiva was a reincarnation of Zimri, as we explained the connection before, he was a reincarnation, Rabbi Akiva was a reincarnation of Zimri. And after he explains to us that Cosbi was a reincarnation of Dinah, and she was reincarnated Isabel. And then she was reincarnation to the wife of the wicked Roman official, Tronis Rufus. He says the following, listen closely. The 24,000 people that were killed at the time of the last year in the desert, the 40th year of the desert, at the time of Zimri, when he had relations with Cosbi, 24,000 people from the tribe of Shimon were blown away. These people were from the tribe of Shimon. These same people came back as the students of Rabbi Akiva that did not respect one another. Why not? Why didn't they respect? All commentators are pulling out their hair. Why didn't the students of Rabbi Akiva have respect? What did Rabbi Akiva teach? Rabbi Akiva taught, love one another. Love your neighbor as yourself. And they didn't have respect? That's really unusual. If that was your rabbi's major point, how could it be that they messed up on this major point? I can understand messing up on points that were not stressed or not really, work that's spoken about. But this is Rabbi Akiva. That was his point. So rabbis are they're trying to find out why didn't they have respect. Listen to this clincher here. This is a grand slam. We're in the bottom of the ninth. 2 out, 2 strikes. This is it. Rabbi Avram Azulai, the father of the Chida, in his book Chesed LaAvraham, in chapter 5, paragraph 25, writes the following. Why didn't they have respect? You want to know why? Hold on, folks. He writes the following. All these 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva, they knew that they were reincarnated of the 24,000 members of the tribe of Shimon that brought calamity upon the Jewish people when they sinned with the women of Moab. And therefore, Rabbi Avram Azulai says, when they looked at each other, why didn't they have respect? Because they said, ugh, you have a big hat, you have a big beard, you have long payas, you have big tzitzis out. But you know what? You're just a lowlife. You're one of those people I see in you. Students of Rabbi Akiva, they saw that the next guy, he was one of the 24,000 students involved in the sin of illegal sexual behavior. In prison, lehavdil, if you did something sexual, those people are in the most danger. If you did some kind of rape, those people are put into solitary confinement because prisoners hate those kinds of people. They look down. If you're a robber, that's fine, you know. If you're a murderer, no problem. But if you do these kinds of things, some kind of sexual rape, okay, you're out of it. You're out of it. So folks, this is a tremendous, so folks, just to finish it off, now we can understand what the Talmud tells us in Tractate Yevamot 62:2, that the students of Rabbi Akiva did not have respect. And we said, what in the world does not having respect have to do with some kind of sexual transgression? They didn't have respect because they saw one another and they understood that the next guy was a reincarnation of somebody that messed up sexually. They didn't look at themselves like that, but they saw the other person as one of those reincarnations. Therefore, they lacked respect. How can I respect a person that brought calamity to the Jewish people? How can I respect a student that he is a reincarnation of people that had sexual transgressions? I can't respect that person. They didn't look at themselves. They too were a reincarnation of the same transgression, but they saw it in the other. Each one saw it in the other guy. And that's why they didn't have respect. And that's why not having respect is connected to a transgression of immodest sexual behavior. So we see here that the tremendous connection spiritually between these three events, and every year, at this time of year, when we count the Omer, we mentioned last week, in the name of the holy book, B'nai Saschar, he brings down that one of the important tikkunim, rectifications, during the 49 days of the counting of the Omer, is to purify ourselves in the realm of modesty, of spiritual, of sexual behavior. That is one of the major points during these days that we count. So not only what we were taught to improve ourselves as far as respecting one another, but along with that is understanding that there was a big connection here between the students of Rabbi Akiva and this time of year, and the students of a problem which has to do with immodest sexual behavior. May we all be successful in making these corrections, both in respecting people and also as far as modesty is concerned.